Hey, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. Adm Ventoura's back. Adam's been here before, episode number 4, back in 2018, where we talked about his early days, like we usually do with all the podcasts. He was here for episode 45 and 46, which was the Bass Players Roundtable that we did back in 2019. And he was also here for episode 100 when we did the Jacko Pastorius Spotlight podcast, and that was 2020, and that was a bit of a break between some COVID lockdowns, and we got to hang out at Lazy Bones, which was really cool. Anyway, Adam's back. He's had a massive couple of years. Of course, he's got his band, Oyobi. There's Third Eye, Lazy Cat, the work he's done with Karen Lee Andrews and Declan Kelly. But I guess the big thing for Adam over these last couple of years is he was asked to join Midnight Oil after the great Bones Hillman passed away. So anyway, I'm not going to waffle on. Adam's the man. He's one of my favourite people. Check it out. This is episode 137. Adm Ventoura returns. I think we're rolling.
Having me back.
Sweet, man. We're in the same spot we recorded episode number 4 back in 2018. Wow. Was it 18?
18, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Solid.
My gear's a bit better.
It is.
That time I just had the little Zoom H4N little thing in the room, and you hear the cars going past, and you're just talking about your dog that came in and out.
That's right,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah, man. It's good to be back in Marrickville too. I was here on Sunday for the Inner West Drum Fest, which was on
with Tully and Gordo.
Fucking awesome, man. What a great day.
Oh, and that would have been good. I wish I was around.
Yeah. Do bass players have that sort of
When they're organised, maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't done anything like that. You know, that'd be cool. I'd be up for something like that.
Yeah.
Drummers are a different breed, as you well know, Stevie. They're definitely a more sharing and kind of chatty bunch than the bass players are. I feel like drummers, they're kind of like, and there's heaps of stuff to talk about. You guys got like all your bits and pieces and your cymbals and your sticks and, and all the different things and snares, and all that.
It's funny you say that because I was talking to...
we just got the 4 strings in there.
I was chatting with Matt McMahon and Steve Hunter because that's who Gordo played with.
Yeah.
Steve said the same thing.
Yeah, right.
He said, if you like a bass player's hang, you'll talk about the guitar, the amp, maybe the strings, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
But, we've got cymbals and different depths and diameters and heads and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
No, and you're much more animated about it. Like I won't even really go there with the bass player about that stuff most of the time. Like,
right.
There's probably only a couple of bass players that I would probably go into a full gear nerd moment with.
Yeah.
I'm not really that much of a gear nerd. I mean, not that you can tell from my room, but like it's like drummers are just better at that, and guitarists they've got all their bits and pieces too that they kind of are concerned with and can chat about, and but they're a little bit more competitive. I find drummers I love drummers because obviously I love drummers, but I love drummers because you guys are you just kind of get on, and we could be worlds apart drum wise, but for the most part you'll be able to sort of get on and have a yarn and appreciate each other's strengths and talents, like if you see each other play and stuff. Yeah. I've noticed that in my time, I'm a wannabe drummer myself, so, like I wish I could play. I had the coordination.
I reckon you could. I really do.
That 4-limb coordination thing is just not me, man. I can barely put one foot in front of the other.
You're just talking about guitarists with their gear. And you mentioned Tully. Tully did a set. He closed out the show with two of the guys from Godtet.
Yeah, with Jan.
Yep, Jan, the bass player, and
who else played with him? The keys player, or the guitarist?
Is it Rodriguez?
Yeah, Dave Rodriguez.
Dave Rodriguez. Yeah, so he was a guitarist, right?
Yeah.
And talk about pedals.
Oh, no,
the synth. It was a synth thing.
Yeah, he's got an amazing.
Unbelievable. And I was standing off side of stage. So, and he had his back to me, so I was watching him. He kind of built the set. He would go down and Tully would be sort of noodling on something.
Yeah.
And Jan would have his air up to the bass to try and get a vibration before he actually turned the...
to get the key.
Try and get...
Yeah.
And then... sorry, what was the guitarist player's name again?
Dave Rodriguez.
So Dave would get this little sort of feedback loop thing going.
Yeah, man.
And then Tully, bang, he's into it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking
it's a real,
fabulous to watch.
It's a really cool thing. They're amazing musicians. I totally love that band. They're awesome.
Yep.
But Tully, I've done a lot of playing with Tully. I've actually done a bunch of playing with Dave as well.
Okay.
And they're all just amazing musicians, really creative, and sort of searching for new sounds.
Yeah.
Always into finding new sounds. Tully's always sort of doing weird, holding things in a weird way throwing weird, I love that kind of experimentation,
Yeah.
And Dave's very much like that. I've never seen a pedal rig like that, in my life. So that's phenomenal. And the way he runs it is just like this beautiful kind of instrument that just fills the sound space, with this incredible. Hey, it's a beautiful thing.
It was something else.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I really wish I'd seen it now.
And so Tully just used the house kit there.
Of course he did.
And just put towels over all the drums. So deaden everything up.
Right.
And he had like the big fat snare sort of muffle thing that he would put on the snare drum every now and then, and change between sticks and brushes and mallets, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I'd ever seen Tully play.
Yeah.
Been meaning to see him for years. Known about him.
No, he's an amazing musician. Yeah. Absolutely the bomb. Totally. We have done in the past, we've done a bunch of playing with him, and always sort of look forward to the next time.
Yeah.
Every time we do something.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Gordo played with Matt McMahon and Steve Hunter, so that's their trio.
Yeah. And I've gotten to see that trio many times.
Yep.
Up at my local there.
Yep, at Lazy Bones. They got the...
Yeah, they got their regular
Tuesday or something.
Third Tuesday of the month they do.
Yep.
For years now.
Yep.
And they're a phenomenal trio as
and
well.
Chris Ellison, do you know Chris Ellison?
Oh yeah.
He's a drummer, plays for Pliny.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so he was second up, so he played along because have you heard of Pliny, the guitar player?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. It's just I don't know how you would kind of a more melodic sort of Animal with Leaders type sort of guitar player.
Okay, right.
I'm not sure how you'd explain it.
Yeah, right.
But it's all a lot of odd time stuff.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And so Chris played a bunch of songs from Pliny, and then the first performance was Holly Connor.
No,
she's a drummer.
Yeah, right, cool.
She was great. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, really melodic, and she had some tracks programmed into her SPD and played along to that. It was a top day.
Cool. Yeah, bass players definitely don't do that sort of stuff, man. They don't no, they do. There is the odd thing that happens here and there.
Yeah.
And but I haven't done one myself. Right. I'd love to one day. That'd be cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Sort of something to prepare for, and it's a nice thing when you get together with sort of people of your instrument and share.
Yeah.
Share talents and share your vibe, and it sounds like all those players are people that are well known amongst the whole sort of scene, and got a, it's good to have like a place where you can go and do drum stuff.
Yeah. At least I guess we did it in a way with those when we did that bass players round table.
Yeah.
And the Jacko podcast.
Yeah,
so that was, I mean,
I love that.
We weren't playing. It was just
but I love that because I love just sort of sharing with the bass brethren as well, and sort of having you direct us into you know, certain areas where we might, you know, like I would bump into those guys around the traps here and there, which bass players don't often bump into each other. So
Right.
it's just a thing you barely see the other bass players until there's something that happens and you're all together.
Yeah.
But you know, you were sort of guiding us through some very cool yarns. It was nice to hear. You know, we bumped into each other just on the like out and about. We would never have talked about those things probably, you know, but we did because we felt comfortable with you, Stevie. That's right. That's
Thank you, man.
That's right.
So, hang on. I was going to show you these sound pads. Hang on. I'm trying to find the laughing one because then I can tell a joke.
Right.
And I don't. I'll show you the pads anyway.
Yeah.
This is number one. Oh, hang on.
This is a comedy club, right? I'll do a heavy applause.
Good to have you, bro. Thanks for coming.
No worries. That's very good.
And
Oh wow!
now
Time for the Gig Life podcast. Oh wow!
so that's all the preset stuff. So I don't know. I haven't really thought about putting other stuff on. I don't know.
No, well, they
It's not
seem
my
to
thing.
be quite cool.
They're quite cool anyway, aren't they?
Well,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they're used in exactly the right moment, then it could be like
That's it.
very cool.
Yeah.
You know.
What about you, man? So when I said that I was at this thing on Sunday, you said you were in town. So what have you been doing?
I have had quite a ride in the last couple of years, as everybody has. But I sort of had a few amazing things happen. But the gig I did on Sunday was called First and Forever, a celebration of Black excellence, and it was probably one of the a festival with basically one of the largest Indigenous lineups that I've ever seen. As far as I can tell, I don't think there's been anything like this festival. And I was in the house band, and we backed a whole pile of artists, really awesome artists. Like literally everyone was incredible. Like Emma Donovan, and it was Tasman Keith, and a young woman from, I think she's from Western Australia, called Psycho, and Christine Anu, and also a couple of amazing hip hop groups, Birds, and JK47, and Kobe D, and Tasman Keith was in there. I say him as well, and it was just an amazing lineup of artists, and Moju as well, and so we backed them all afternoon. So we did this whole afternoon. We played about 30 songs, and it just was like 3 hours, just end to end. Sort of, we prepped for a few days before. Had pretty solid rehearsals. I think it's going to be broadcast in a week or so.
Yeah, right.
A couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's ABC. It's called First and Forever, and then after us, there were like epic. There was like epic acts doing their own thing with their own band. So, but just Mao Boy and Baker Boy, and Thelma Plum and King Stingray, who are all unbelievable. So that was my Sunday.
Yeah, cool.
Out at Hanging Rock in Victoria.
Wow.
So I was in this beautiful space, and it was just amazing. It was just an incredible festival. There was a lot of pretty heavy cultural stuff that was going down, too. A lot of elders and kind of ceremonial stuff, and a lot of dancing, and it was absolutely beautiful. And then all this incredible music, and it was just a great hang and a great few days, really, because we sort of hung out with the band and with the artists for 2 days previous, and then we went and did the show. So it's a pretty long day.
Yeah. So what was your link to that? So how did you get to be in that situation? I know you've got a history of having played with a lot of Indigenous artists, and
I've just come off the back of, I'd worked with a few of those artists that we backed. Alice Skye was another one as well. On a gig that I've just finished, which was the Midnight Oil gig. So the first tour I did with them was during an album called the Makarrata Project. And that was apparently their first full album where they'd collaborated in full with other artists, and it was all amazing Indigenous artists and friends of theirs, and so I got to sort of tour. That was not only was I, part of the oils thing, but we were also sort of connecting with these amazing Indigenous artists as well, which was a beautiful thing. And some of who were on this bill on Sunday, but I'm not sure if that was it. I think I sort of, it was sort of one of those things where through the scene, I suppose if you see, I think the gig was quite eclectic musically. So, and I know I can do.
You can do all.
I can do that. Yeah, so like we went from, some sort of banging synth bass, to full on sort of 90s sort of 5-string, pop, funky kind of pop R&B hits to sort of deep sort of rock and soulful sort of reggae, and stuff, and it was
your cup of tea.
Well, it was all the stuff I really love and get into, but I was sort of dropping this bass and grabbing this bass and setting this sound up, and it was a really full on. It was a real session kind of gig.
So how did you prep for, I mean, you said you had some rehearsals. Were there rehearsals here in Sydney, or did you?
We did a couple of preparatory kind of ones as a rhythm section, just to sort of get together and sort of see what was what and kind of start filling it out. Because I had to use a different synth to what I've used, and I'm not a major synth guy at all, but I do it and I do play it.
Yeah.
But I had to use the Moog instead of my usual rig, so I had to sort of I had to figure out how to use it. So, and that was a bit actually it was a bit of a surprise. Like, oh yeah, they really wanted to use that. Okay, cool. And so, and actually it was amazing. And I had a little bit of help, but pretty much sort of got it going. So I was sort of doing that, figuring out the sounds for that, figuring out what basses to use for what, and sort of getting in on the arrangements with the bare bones of the band.
Yeah.
And then sort of last Thursday we rocked up in Melbourne and we started doing full on rehearsing with, everyone was there, like the whole full production, everything, like all the in-ears and track and everything's rocking, so it was a pretty serious affair.
Yeah.
And just people coming in and out, and we're just there the whole time kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, it was hard work, but it was just an amazing kind of day, an amazing festival, an amazing gig to do. And, how I got there ceases to be important. It was, I was just happy to be there,
Gotcha.
But, I feel like it's if you add up all the things that I've been doing forever.
Yep.
And then you end up on a gig that you go, wow, this gig really, I really love this and this really suits me. And, like
all of it.
Then you kind of go, I think maybe this is a bunch of things adding up together.
Yeah.
Your reputation in the scene. What is it that you do? And how do you roll? Who do you roll with? What do you like to play? Are you able to come up with the goods quickly?
Yeah.
Which is that we definitely had to do that a few times, like sort of just quick turnaround. Artist wants to do something differently, and you kind of go, and yet, the whole band was really good. Like that was a really good band as well. So that was cool.
How do you do you do all that sort of prep from memory, or do you much of a note? Are you much of a note writer? Or?
It's funny you should mention it because we were having conversations about this because my colleagues on the gig, they were charting stuff. I try to memorize everything. I started doing it a long time ago. I think I'm kind of getting good at it now. So I basically figured that the time that it would take me to actually write it out, I could listen to the track another at least 3 or 4 times, maybe. 3-minute song, 4-minute song.
Gotcha.
I mean, when you've got longer pieces of music, it starts to get a bit more complicated and a bit more time consuming.
Yep.
And even if the 3-minute songs are complicated or then it's just not going in, you just got to kind of do it a few times. So like, I try to run the song from memory. I might jot down a progression, or like sometimes I'll jam along with it without any clue, like just completely green, just never barely even heard it. Just jam along, make a mess up or everything, and then I'll actually put the bass down. I'll figure out what key it's in, obviously, and then I might just do it all in my notes and just jot the chords that I'm hearing down.
Yep.
And then I'll probably barely look at that ever again. You know, like it's kind of weird. It's kind of just a process that I go through, like, just me sitting there actually without the bass, listening to it. And then after that, I just try to put it in my ear.
Yeah.
And that can be hard with the more songs you're dealing with.
I was
staying on top of those songs as well if you have to perform it multiple times. If I'm performing something multiple times, it always goes in, like once it's in, it's usually in for good.
I was going to ask this question a bit later when we start talking about the oils, but you had to learn 90-odd songs.
Yeah, it was.
Was it the same process?
Yeah, I did the same thing.
We'll get more into detail on that bit later, but that's...
Yeah. I feel like that process definitely...
It works for you?
Well, it works for me, but also the process of learning all the songs for the oils only just made me better at what I was already sort of started to do, which I've realised now because of what I just did on the weekend as well, because that was the first time I've had to sort of step in and go, oh, there's all these songs, and like, I like a set list, and I'll have a key on there.
Yeah.
The key, I'm not, like my brain's not,
I understand.
It's not flawless. In fact, it's quite flawed.
Well, you're a bass player, mate. So
yeah, right.
Hang on. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've got to use it. Right? You need to figure out which buttons are what if you're taking the piss, mate.
Well, it doesn't have a head or a fucking sticks. Fucking electronics.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the same. But so it's all something that I've always done, and something that I've definitely felt has got easier and better over the years.
Yeah.
I've definitely rocked up to a few gigs with my piece of paper with the song list and just a couple of notes on it.
Yeah.
And other people in the band have looked at me like, really? Are you thinking of doing this without charts? And I'm, like, to be honest, you're never absolutely sure if it's all going to come back on the moment, but the more I've done it, the more I realise, I know it's in there. I've done the work on it. I learnt it properly. I put it in my ear. I played with it. We maybe even got to rehearse. Which is sometimes you don't get to do that. Yeah. And you just rock up and play. And I remember rocking up on a pretty complicated sort of fusion-y style gig. It was a pretty heavyweight band. And everybody knew the stuff, and the bass player was a monster, and I was like, wow, well, it was Dalno's one of Dalno's gigs.
Okay.
And the gig was hard, and I rocked up, and the guitarist who was also filling in that particular gig just looked at me like, what do you mean you have, like, I looked absolutely disgusted, like I hadn't done the work and that it was going to be a really shit gig and stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was the gig was really good, and it went really well, And I felt like I connected with the musos and with the crowd, and that's how the whole thing began in the first place. I started doing all these salsa gigs in Melbourne where there were charts, full on charts, and it was really involved arrangements, but it was groovy as hell, and people dancing like, and I just wanted to kind of interact with the band and interact with the crowd and kind of be a little bit more heads up rather than heads down. So I went away and I memorized the songs. Yeah. And then I just started doing that all the time. That was just a matter of, I just try to do it that way. It goes in your head better, I think. If you've got a chart there, sometimes you just look at it for the sake of looking at it, It's really hard.
It's interesting what you said about by the time whatever time it takes me to write it out, I've run the track 2 or 3 more times. Yeah. And sometimes that's all it takes, eh?
And then,
especially if it's something fairly similar, you get a form, catch, if there's a couple of figures in there, you work out where they are. And,
exactly. Yeah. And, I don't kill myself to try to do it. I just try to make it. I just try to, I'll put the set in, you pull up the Spotify or whatever someone sends you, or the Dropbox or whatever, and you just systematically go through the tunes, and as you go, and then some of them are sticking and some of them are not. Some of them you go, this is sweet. I know exactly what's going on here. You don't have to go back to it. But then there's another one that needs a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So I kind of, and I'll just sort of, and I'll try to learn it like a set so that I'm thinking of it as one thing rather than 10 or 20
individual songs.
Gotcha. Which is, that's a kind of weird vibe as well. But it's another sort of another way of thinking for me, like is thinking of the set as one, as the performance as a whole rather than individual songs, and how you get in and out of those things is all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which, when you get to rehearse and you get to work on a show and stuff like that, you get to kind of finesse that kind of stuff. But when sometimes you just don't get that time, here's the songs, I'll see you at the gig. And I suppose those kind of gigs have been the ones that have developed me so that I can actually sort of take a whole bunch of stuff in. And on the weekend I had a set list with the patch numbers for the synth and what effects I might have had on the pedal board and which bass I was playing with, and P bass and my J bass, and that was it. And that was sort of and I think I got through everything pretty, nothing sort of went completely astray at all. There were definitely no train wrecks.
Yeah.
We just had an amazing time, so that's I recommend it, but it's sometimes people feel like it's a little bit extra work. They can listen to something twice and chart it quickly, which I could still do that as well in shorthand, quickly write it out. But, a lot of people don't unlearning songs properly as well.
Yeah, true.
I find like if you just sort of like throw it out there and just scribble it down and listen to it once or twice and go, and you get to the gig and they're like, everyone's looking at each other like, do you remember how it starts?
Do you remember the feel?
Yeah.
Remember the feel? Oh, feel?
Yeah,
oh, no,
yeah, that's right.
Where have you written what the feel is?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Exactly right, Steve. You
can't internalise it, eh?
You're speaking my language. If you just need to put it in your ear.
Yeah.
So that when it comes out, you kind of go, yeah, that's right. I pegged the feel, the the little intricacies of the groove that's going on, or in the arrangement, of course, the key, of course, any changes in those, within all of those things.
Yeah.
That that are, obviously it's all important, but a good friend of mine has told me, like someone gives you the rep tape, you learn the fucking rep tape.
That's good advice.
It's one of the best things that my dearly departed friend told me.
Yeah,
and I've stuck with it. He gave me that advice when I was about 23. I just moved to Melbourne, and he was a big guy, and doing heaps of gigs and everything, and I was just like, whoa, okay, here I am.
Yep.
And he's a little bit older than me, and if someone gives you the rep tape, learn the fucking rep tape. I was like, yep, that was good advice. So now I learn the fucking rep tape.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Tape. I was just giving away exactly how old I am now.
You're giving away all your secrets too.
I remember when they used to be, when people would make mixtapes. Rep tapes are just mixtapes, but not made with love. There's no love.
There's no love at all.
There's no love there. They just cut things off terribly.
Chuck them on, yeah.
It's really rough. There's no thought. It's just like, I've got to get these tunes to these people.
Yeah.
But we don't do those. We don't do those anymore.
Yeah, we were talking in this first one of these we did, episode 4 or whatever it was, and we both listened back to it over the last couple of days, so we don't repeat ourselves.
Yeah.
But
God forbid.
That just when you're talking about charts and that kind of thing, I asked you about the Sonic Mayhem Orchestra, and you said that was you did that specifically so you would go back to charts and to reading because your reading had slipped.
Yeah.
Now since then, 4 years ago, how long did you keep that up? And are you?
No, that because obviously COVID.
Yeah.
So that gig kind of broke down to a once a month, and then I'm pretty sure shortly after that COVID sort of kicked in, and so I haven't done that gig, and that gig, that band sort of. I think it's on sort of like in sleep mode.
Okay.
As you know, it was a lot to organise. I can imagine for the band leader.
Yeah.
And it was hard to keep everybody on track as well.
Okay.
You know, because it was just a big band on a
Yeah.
really quiet night.
Yeah.
You know, and it was it's regularity that Another thing about me sort of memorising stuff is that obviously I get myself off reading charts. You know, I've always done that, which is why I came back to wanting to maybe, like I need to sort of get my reading back, a little bit of my reading back again. And it did. It was actually awesome. It was really good. And I feel like I'm better for it since doing the band than before, because it was a really big break.
Yep.
That I hardly did any gigs where I needed to read at all. Yep. But they are out there, and if you really want to be prepared for anything, then keep your reading chops up.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as freaked out by it now, but I've kind of gone back to my old ways, to be honest. Yeah. And I don't have a big band gig to practice on now. So I guess I'm sort of the other way a little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's So the big thing for you over the last couple of years has been joining Midnight Oil.
Yes.
Let's try and there's a lot of other stuff that's been going on too that we talked about before. We went to air, not live, but went to air. So I'm just trying to think how we can sort of work all that in. So I want to know how the Midnight Oil thing came about, and you did tell me that. But I guess it starts with your band Oyobi.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I think we've been working towards sort of our own kind of goals in sort of production and sort of, kind of creating our own sort of sound and thing that we do for a few years now, and we were pretty committed to working in the studio together. We would do 2 days, like we just had regular studio days where we would go in and do as much as we could, as often as we could.
Yep. So sorry, let me, for the people that don't know, Oyobi is basically a 3-piece.
Yep.
It's yourself, Daniel Pliner,
yep,
and Vincent Sebastian.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's it's got so many elements.
It does.
It's got funk. It's got Latin. It's got house.
Yeah, it's
drum and bass. No, not quite drum and bass. I guess
we kind of like we like all the broken beat and drum and bass and sort of UK sort of garage sort of style thing, but we also love soulful house music as well. We also love all the different South American kind of music as well. Cuban and Brazilian and Peruvian and Colombian and we collaborate. We've collaborated with a whole bunch of people, artists mainly, and some bands, to just sort of create music that we just comes from within us, I suppose. We just wanted to have that opportunity. We're all doing things for other people. Yeah. And then it came a time whenever we got together, we would sort of make stuff up. And it was with an extended community as well. We had this gig in Tatler's called, it was the Latin Jam on Sundays, and the band was called Reyes de la Onda, and it was just a completely kick-ass band. And Danny Pliner was in it, and Vincent was the main organiser of the whole thing. It was just this party that would go off. 3 summers we had, just 3 crazy kind of years of doing these Sundays, and it went off, and great jams, great musicians come down and play. But it was always, dance floor was always packed, and the whole point is creating kind of interesting music that's dance floor orientated. But we are also pretty eclectic, and we love to kind of improvise and kind of create. So we kind of create like organic electronica in a sense. There's a lot of live percussion on it. There's a lot of live playing on it as well. Anyway, that was all going on prior to COVID, And, we talked about that we were doing that at the time. And it was pretty fresh at the last time I spoke to you. And then we got to 2020 and we got shut down. And we were sort of like, wow, okay, we had releases and we got an album signed over in UK out of London, an amazing label called Jazz. And so we had the release, but all of a sudden the COVID thing kicked in and it was all a bit of a mess. We still put the record out anyway, and people responded really well to it. But we also had a lot of individual tracks flying around, a lot of collaborations, a lot of people. So we've done a few things now that have sort of gone and hit, pretty cool way. Never the cha-ching kind of way, but always the way where we've gotten sort of props from amazing people, or we've gotten sort of attention from sort of area parts of the planet that we love, that we're getting attention from those parts of the planet, basically. Yeah. And then sort of more interest, more collaborations, and then we've kind of gotten better and all our stuff. COVID hits, we completely locked out of each other's lives and everything. So we tried to do a few Zoom sessions and just failed. I know some people made it work, but we could as a group, we bounce off each other musically, literally with our instruments in a room, making up the beats, adding percussion, like getting people in, the whole thing. It's about being in the room. Yeah. So we just end up just having a few drinks over Zoom and not really getting much done. Yeah. Sending stuff in to put in post and in between, not really kind of vibing too much. Yeah. But then when we got unlocked, of course, we ran like crazy people straight back to the studio, like, oh my God, the first thing we wanted to do, because there were no gigs because of all the restrictions. Yep. We had no work. So we were like, fuck, we really bust into play. We were sort of all freaking out about what we were going to do. We were thinking, well, at this point in time, maybe we can all hang out in the studio. So we would go to the Nest in Surrey Hills, which is Vincent and Declan Kelly's studio. That's where Oyobi sort of hangs out. That's where Declan does all his production and all his work with as well. And we started to just kind of hang in and working again, and it was awesome. It was a beautiful thing. Also on the other side of that, the venues hadn't even properly opened up yet, and we started hanging up at Lazy's on Tuesdays with Timmy, the sound guy there, me, Declan, and Daniel Pliner, and we actually formed a new group out of that kind of cover called the Third Eye Laser Cat. Yeah, which is.
I'll just stop you on that.
Yeah,
one of the first, or wasn't the first, maybe. I actually bought the live stream gig you did on the rooftop.
That's right. I think you were the only one.
I was the only one.
Stevie,
I loved it.
Honestly, Stevie, I love you for it.
I sat in my fucking studio with a bottle of bourbon and I fucking had it cranking in my headphones. I had the best fucking night. It was awesome.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Third Eye Lazy Cat.
Oh my God, I love you, Stevie. Anyway,
I funded that band.
You did. Anyway, thanks for the kebab, Stevie. We started doing Tuesdays, hanging out with Timmy as well. Timmy's an incredible DJ and sound man, and he would so we kind of do this sort of cinematic dub, improvised kind of stuff, and it's fun as hell to play, and it's really spontaneous. We don't even talk to each other about it. We just sort of just like look at someone, like just glare at someone to start, and then which Danny always happily starts, and then we will just kick the stuff off, and so we started doing that kind of thing, and it just was sort of getting better and better, and we were recording it to cassette tape and doing all this kind of creative kind of stuff. And then Oyobi's working in the studio, and then Declan during lockdown had locked himself in his studio and wrote his album. Yep. So he was starting to track it all and get people into track. So we were, as well as doing these Third Eye Laser Cat jams and the Oyobi sessions, we were also doing Declan Kelly sessions as well. And and then sort of it just started sort of expanding. It was a bit of like a creative kind of give, and there were other people. There were people coming in for the Oyobi thing, like Karen Lee Andrews and other friends of ours that we collaborate with, and we're sort of doing remixes for people and stuff. And Declan has a whole other world of people that come in and they either get him to produce stuff or just get him to play drums on, or he's other people that he plays with that are just absolutely beastly. We're the other crew on I'm only on 4 of those tracks
Yep.
on that record, on Deck's new record, but
Yep.
the other guys are just all beast musos as well, and they're all we're all friends, you know, we're all just musicians that know each other. So there was a real kind of spirit of this sort of creative thing going on. None of us were making any money. We got no gigs, so we were sort of a bit like sort of throwing ourselves into that. Well, out of that, Dex one day just says, hey man, do you want to come and have a jam with Jim Magini? And he said it so casually, and I was like, you mean Jim Magini from Midnight Oil? And he was like, yeah. Like yeah, it was such a Declan thing. You know, he's really quite casual about it. And I was like, dude, I'd love to. That'd be amazing, man. Like up at his studio up in Brookvale, he's got an incredible studio called Oceanic.
Is that a commercial studio?
Bro, you can hire that studio.
Yeah.
Tape, analog,
Right.
like beautiful space.
Right.
It's amazing. It's an amazing studio. Took us up there, and a keys player an Australian keys player who lives in New York had sent something to Jim, something strange and weird, and Jim was like, oh, and just told Dex, bring a bass player up with you, let's have a jam on this weird thing that our friend that his friend sent him. So we get in there and we sort of edit and chop and hang out and set up stuff, and Jim barely even touched the guitar. There was a guitar just like 50s or 60s, beautiful guitar, like semi-hollow body guitar, sitting on top of precariously on top of the Rhodes that he didn't touch until he just set everything else up, the drums, and it was concerned with everything else, and this thing was just sitting there with a lead like this, and I was like, oh, you know, and literally press record, picks up the guitar, and we just played.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was super cool experience. But it wasn't anything that I would have thought might have led to him 2 weeks later calling me to ask me to fill in for Bones. So I just got a phone call a couple of weeks after that session.
So how long since Bones? This is Bones Hillman, the bass player from Midnight Oil, who passed away.
Yeah.
So how long after? When did he died?
It was in November 2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah, early November 2020. And you know, so we'd sort of had a jam with Jim, sort of, you know, like September, October.
Okay.
Or something like that. And then a couple of weeks later, he'd called and said, look, you know, Bones wasn't well. He's not going to make it back over from the States for this tour that we're doing. So we're trying out bass players. Would you mind coming in? And I was like, I was just thought like, wow, I had never even thought like they sort of existed so far off in the distance of the canon of Australian rock and roll
history. Yeah, gotcha.
You know, that I sort of never even sort of registered that maybe I might be good for the gig, and then so they threw me about 10 tunes, and then I learnt those 10 tunes as well as I could, and some of them were like the stuff that's in the DNA, like the Australian DNA songs, and other stuff was stuff I hadn't heard before.
Okay.
Some more sort of stuff that was like, which was what it turned out to be like all the fans know everything, but you know, like you know, like kind of in the scheme of things, some of their songs have just sort of stand up as like very much favourites, and they might not have been the ones that were hits or any of their hits, but there's a lot of their songs are known, and there's a lot of songs. And I rocked up to the studio they told me to come to, and I had my pedal board and my bass, and I was going to plug into their rig, and I was sort of just like treating it kind of like, I'm just going to try out for this gig, and you know, and the reality hadn't quite hit home until I literally walked in and saw them all.
Yeah, right.
And just was like, holy crap, like I'm literally about to have a jam with Midnight Oil.
Yeah.
And that was mind-blowing. It really was, you know. And I went in hard, man. I actually, and I'd sort of been working the pick up because I do play with the pick, but I wouldn't have ever done a full gig on pick, and also not quite with that sort of ferocity that is required to make those eighths work.
Right.
Which is predominantly downstroke
Right.
eights, which may or may not be good technique, but I tell you what, it's even.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's more even than if you
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's a definite attack difference when you're hitting down. So I had to get kind of across that, and I actually busted my hand. So I did the audition. I came out guns blazing. I had a ball. In my mind, I was like, surely I'm not the guy for this gig. There were so many other especially the older generation of bass players that are around who actually sort of were involved with them for years and friends of theirs and stuff like that. I just thought that there were more people that might have been slightly more qualified or connected, but they were really going for someone different than that. I think maybe generationally, or there was I didn't know who the other bass players that went for it were.
Yeah.
I found out eventually, but like they were very good at keeping it all on the download, who was doing what and everything. I just had my time, rocked in, went hard, couldn't hold a cup of tea, couldn't hold anything in my right hand for 3 days, man.
Wow, man.
And I got all sooky about it too, because I was like, oh man, I went too hard and I hurt myself, and I don't know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, really, Bones passed away 5 days after that audition. And at that point, I was sort of like, oh wow, look, all bets are off. I don't, I'm not expecting anything now. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and to be honest, I just sort of went, oh well, that was an interesting experience that I had, a great interesting experience that I had, and so I sort of started getting on with stuff, and then a couple of weeks later, the management called me, and they were like, this is all, no one really wants to be dealing with this right now, because it was,
it's pretty raw, man.
Yeah, he's only just been buried, I'm pretty sure, at the time. And nobody could be with him because no one could travel properly at the time, and it was just all. So there were several tributes and gatherings and stuff, but it was all happening around that time. They were like, you and someone else, they're trying to decide between you and someone else. Come back again. Here's another 6 tunes. But this time you got to sing. Make sure you sing, because no one even told me. I just went in on the bass playing. I could sing some of the stuff, but other stuff I didn't concentrate on that. I concentrated on the bass playing. And then I was like, oh well, okay. So I got my second go, and this time we didn't have the full setup going on with the sound monitor guy and all that stuff. It had it was just the 4 of them in Apogee studio. I just rocked up and went, oh wow, okay. On like small kit, small rigs. Yeah. In the room.
Yep.
58s just like turned up, basically. And Pete just in my face, like trying to hear me sing and stuff. And we jammed for about 3 hours. That was pretty cool. That was like next level. And we jammed through all of the. So I had 16 of their songs at that point. I've actually got these numbers of at points of time where I had to, so that was the first 16 songs.
Yeah.
And then we got to, and then I didn't hear from them for a week, and I was all like, oh man, I just wish someone would bring me in to say, no, you didn't get it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got an email saying, oh, can I talk from the management? Can I talk? Yeah, sweet, cool. You got the gig. And I was like, cool, okay. He goes, okay, I'll send you an email with all the details, blah, blah. Yeah, thanks, man. I was trying to keep cool. And I fucking lost it when I got off the phone.
So where were you?
I was in my car picking up my kids from swimming or some shit. And I was like, just driving around doing the thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of wild. That was after, obviously that was after such a shitty year. That first COVID, which we all kind of rolled with. It was the second year that was worse.
Yep.
But yeah, so after that was tough, that first bit, but we kind of all went through, and then we were sort of coming out of it, and then for that to kind of happen I mean, there weren't any gigs. There was a small tour, like there were 10 shows in the new year, and stuff was still shifting around because like the capacities were still it was all dodgy. It was all a mess,
Yeah.
So people were still trying to kind of organise shows, but that with COVID in mind and having things go down, having shows go down because it just goes through the crew or the audience's social distancing in the audience, like numbers of there could be indoors and outdoors and all that sort of stuff. So trying to organise because they'd released this Makarata Project EP, which is very much concerning the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and just has magical performances from amazing Indigenous artists on this record. I would thoroughly recommend it. The Oils right up until like the end, and then 2021 they released Resist because they were all those both those records were recorded at the same time. Bones was with them. They just finished the touring in 2019, and they went straight in the studio and tracked a whole bunch of stuff, and those two albums were the result. So yeah, sort of stepping into that world was pretty intense. Like kind of, yeah. I mean, look, there's that whole audition process was sort of spread out over a month or so, with Bones passing away in the middle of it. So, by the time I got round to You Are the Guy in the band, I hadn't actually hung out with the guys, and I just got told, okay, you got an acoustic bass guitar, like just rock up to. So I think I rocked up to Martin's house first, and then we rocked up to Rob's house next, and and then Jim's place, and I did these acoustic rehearsals with them, just them on their ridiculous Gibson acoustics. Me and my Court, that Court there. That's seen some miles that bass, and it's actually awesome.
Yeah.
But they're sort of rocking these insane like 60s.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And
is that the bass used to do the John Stevens?
Yeah. That thing ain't going nowhere, man. Yeah. That's my. I love that axe. I played it in too.
Yeah.
But we just hung out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing that two guitar thing that they do, just so brilliantly, and just right in front of me on the couch, and that was my first rehearsals with them. And then we just went through and did that sort of cycle, a whole bunch of rehearsals. I think I learned about 46 or 48 songs for the first tour. Like you learn like all of Diesel and Dust, and I learned, all the new record, always the new record.
Yeah.
And then by the time we came, so there was a lot of tunes there. Then by the time we came around to the next, so we'd been locked down again. So we made that tour. That tour happened, and then we got locked down straight up. That was the big one, and that was with a really kind of shitty one for everyone. I feel like it was. I think we were talking about earlier on how it just got really hard to feel positive about it because it was the second time it was happening, and it was worse than the first time. And so, that was a bit of a mess, and I was like, oh God, I don't know what's going to happen now. I didn't even hear from anybody. Everyone kind of went a bit quiet as well. Like not just with me and the Worlds, but with everybody went quiet.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just sort of, it sort of became hard to chit chat with the people that you always, that you would be hanging out with at the gig and playing with and associating with and working, and it just got really hard to kind of continue those conversations and be sort of upbeat about it, as you would well know. But so by the time we got to the end of that, thank God we got to the end of that. We started prepping for this next tour that I just finished in October, and that was probably a total of 10 months kind of engagement from like beginning of December last year to the beginning of October this year, I reckon.
Yep. Sorry. So was that originally planned to be one big tour but got broken up?
No, well,
it was
I think it was actually two separate tours.
Because it was the Makarata project and then it was
the Resist,
wasn't
yeah,
it? Right,
the
okay,
Resist,
gotcha.
yeah.
Right.
No, they were always going to be separate because they were separate releases,
Yeah,
and
okay.
I basically want to do one year, tour it, and then release the next one and tour it.
Okay, gotcha.
But then, like everything, and there was stuff that just got postponed for
Yeah.
the whole time. Like stuff, the timeline just went completely smashed on what they'd planned for it. And even when my involvement came in, stuff would move around like pretty seriously. There was so much shifting. The dates would shift, and then there wasn't even an overseas section in the very beginning,
Right.
and then all of a sudden there was.
Yeah.
And we're like scrambling for visas and stuff like that, So we started working that one, and then we went and did like warm ups in Tasmania, and that was awesome because by that point, sort of I know 3-4 full albums, that made me learn all of 10 to 1, all of Diesel and Dust, and then I was getting through other records as well because I was just learning. I'd learned most of the songs on these records.
Yep.
And then they started, and I told them as well. I said, "Look, I want to start with a body of songs that you guys can pull from." And basically, it started adding up. Like it was already around 48, 50. Then start, we want to do these, and then the new records, and it's 60, 70, and then while we're on the road. They were like, and I'd said, look, I know you guys, because we didn't realize at the beginning of the tour, I wasn't sure that, I didn't know at all that it was going to be the last, because I only saw the final tour thing as it got announced. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I just got here. I was spewing, So
I've already written your next album.
Yeah. Well, so I tried, I gigged under the idea that I was getting closer and closer to this end thing, and then I wanted to do as much as I could for the band because they were literally phenomenal musicians and phenomenal songwriters and really intelligent, just credible humans as well. Just kind of it was just such a fantastic experience for me, and they welcomed me, and even though they'd lost, they'd lost their brother, and everything had changed. For everyone, it wasn't just them as well. It was the crew and management, and everyone that was involved. Bones was in there for like 35 or more, at least 35 years, I think. And he was the fifth member of the band, so it was a pretty crazy thing to walk in on.
Yeah.
But as it progressed, they added more and more tunes. So the final tunes, I don't count. We did a whole bunch of covers at different times. They would do pull one out in a certain city or a certain place for a certain reason, and so I learned a handful of covers. So I've learned over 100 songs, but I reckon I've got 94 oil songs that I can perform live by the end. And they even had me playing at least one that I had never played before on the last show.
Yeah, right.
right up to the last show.
Yeah.
Which was nearly 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And it was about 40 songs. Most of the shows are about 22, 23, 24 songs.
Right. So how were you received by audience and public? Because it's a pretty sort of big thing to come into. So.
Yeah. Look, I haven't quite had that much attention on me. Usually I'm sort of in the capacity of, I suppose, the pro bass player thing, which is not my focus as much as it used to be when I was younger. It's sort of what I do, and I'm into it. But I also like to be creative and to produce stuff, and you kind of sort of been more into kind of getting my own voice and all that sort of stuff. So you kind of used to, when you do those kind of, when you do a gig for someone else and you're kind of being pulled in on something and you're learning other people's music and stuff, my natural inclination is to, just play the bass and lock in with the drummer, support the singer, play the tunes, learn the fucking rep tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and not that I didn't take this incredibly seriously, but also, like, I don't think I was being completely hired for just being a gun. I think I was hired to come in and help bring something to it.
Yep.
Because something had left, and that was felt. I felt like that every time I was with everybody on mass, that I I was the thing that had come and replaced somebody who had unfortunately left, and the crowd, the fans were like that too. They were like full on like that, and that they're the ones that sort of dug up all the dirt on me and everything.
It's like fan clubs,
hard,
online fan clubs,
like full on, like there's lots of them too, but there's some really hardcore,
die hard type.
Yeah, and I think most artists have that.
But would never something you've even thought of, right?
No. I didn't even kind of take it into consideration.
Right.
That nobody would give. But of course I did, and that before they knew that because when it got announced, my name got announced, everyone was like, "Who?" Like they were like, "What?" And a few people within the industry were like, "Oh yeah, I reckon Adam could do that." That'd be, they were actually friends and colleagues, and that were like, they hadn't thought about it before, because there was the same as me, is like, because there was kind of existed off in this other plane.
Yeah.
Of existence.
But to be honest, though, I know I'm not the only one that thinks this too, that when I saw that you got the Oils gig, I'm like, of course you got the fucking Oils gig.
You're right.
No, I was like,
yeah. Thanks, man.
Fucking.
Well, some people felt like that, but then pretty much the rest of the world who has no idea who I am. So that's
right.
It's in this small industry that we're involved in,
right?
Of which I know a lot of people, and,
sure.
and you also know a lot of people. But in terms of like worldwide fame, like a band that's been around as long as they have and achieved the heights and all that sort of stuff. They didn't know who the hell I was at all, and they were, it was like, what the, and then they were digging up all what they could find on me and stuff, and it was, there's not heaps.
Well, there was a bit of a spike in the episode 4 of the Gig Life podcast.
That's right. There you go. Yeah, and I remember that they actually posted that, and
really?
And that's actually part of the beauty of, let's turn it back on you, Stevie, is the beauty of you doing this Gig Life podcast, is that for as long as the internet's going, there's a certain era of musicians that were doing their thing, that were making a living and writing music, playing music, entertaining people every week, every day, for years, that you've documented. And these people were looking for me, and the only thing they could find was the Gig Life podcast. You know what I mean? And they found a few other things, but that was something that had me talking to you about me.
Yep.
And so, like, I think that's what you do is really awesome, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I fully support the Gig Life podcast.
Thank you, my bro.
And so it was wild, because I just hadn't seen that level of kind of like attention. And it sort of died off now. It's no one really cares again. It's good.
Kardashian's done something.
That's right. There's all sorts of other stuff going on now.
Sometimes I don't, because we live in this Australasian bubble, I suppose. I mean, I knew when Beds of Burning came out in New Zealand, it was fucking huge.
Yeah.
And I remember my uncle had it. He had the tape. I remember sitting in the back of his hot rod. He had like a Model T hot rod, holding the tape, the cassette tape, and I remember the cover. And then I knew they were Australian, and I think we live in this bubble and we don't kind of realise that Midnight Oil is it's international.
Well, that
you just
record-
look at that. I had a look at that. Your tour not the tour schedule, but all the gigs. I went to the website today and had a look at all the places you played. Fuck me.
No, look, there was a point where they were really big overseas. They had some amazing sort of times, probably late 80s, 90s. But they've been touring. They've been touring there since. They've got the best stories about, like, being at a club across the road from where U2 were playing. U2's got 200 people and they got like 90 in there, and they were before they were all before they were famous, before all of them were famous, kind of thing. That they were the Oils were already over there working it, touring, recording, doing their thing, and just met all these amazing people on the way. And I've also got to meet some of these people on the way. But like in Germany and France, like the people were like crazy for them, man. And it was just so awesome. Just so awesome to sort of see how far and wide. I mean, I don't know if many people know that Rob Hurst speaks French pretty much fluently.
Does he?
Yeah, and when we were in France, he would come out and he would talk to them in French, and they love him.
Yeah,
and he was like, it was a beautiful thing to see. And, I think he's into languages, and he obviously loves French, but I think the fans over there really appreciated that when he did that,
Yep.
And they sing along to songs that maybe they know the lyrics, maybe they don't. Like definitely some people they're just singing the syllables, but they were going off to it. But that's the thing about the music is it's not just there's the message and the lyric in the music, which has always been the most impact, that you get from the band is the message and what's being said. But then musically, it's a phenomenal kind of like so rocking, but then so kind of different and kind of angular. But it doesn't feel angular. You feel it's smooth angles. It's musicals. Does amazing things. It changes, the arrangement changes and keys change and rhythm changes and all this sort of stuff. And like even the punters just don't really kind of, because it's done so musically and so smoothly, and that melody and that message still comes across. That's really exciting music to play. It's played loud and full on, and it's really hard music. Like I feel like don't know if anybody underestimates, the definitely musicians that have learned, musicians that I know that have learned the tunes, they sort of all appreciate the fact that like nothing repeats, nothing sort of, it's actually really complicated music that you got to learn the whole thing to.
Yeah, right.
Which is kind of what I was talking about, you learn a whole song,
the whole thing,
or a whole set,
set.
It's easier sometimes when something's really complicated to just keep hitting yourself with it, until it sort of sinks in, and then feel it when you're playing, and hopefully it becomes more natural.
Yep.
As the more you play it, some songs I got to get very comfortable with, and I could contribute to those smooth angles.
I understand.
Where the time changes or the key switches or the, things that would happen there. It was just like, whoa, where are we going now? What the fuck? Like, so many times when I was learning it, I was just like, I was just shaking my head, just going, what was that? Like, it's just brilliant songwriting, brilliant composition, like just, I'm probably one of the biggest fans there is,
Yeah.
And I know 94 of their songs. Of a potential 160, but there's like heaps more than that. But, I think on if you look at all their tunes added up, it's all like about 100.
Staggering, isn't it?
It's a massive amount of work. Yeah.
Can I ask you about Rob Hurst?
Yes.
Iconic Australian drummer.
Of course, the drummer wants to go.
No, I mean, but I'm asking from from a bass player playing with Rob Hurst.
Mm-hmm.
You learnt all those songs. You would have started to understand his feel a little bit. And what surprised you the first time you sat in this or got in the studio with him with his full drum kit, say full production rehearsal or something like that? What surprised you about his playing? Did you expect him to play a certain way? You get in there and he...
I think because I'd been learning the music and you got that, it was like that, and anything you've ever seen of him live, that super high energy, super high velocity drumming, like hard drumming.
Yeah.
The volume was, the feeling of how loud even they were when we were being conscious of how loud it was.
Yeah.
Was loud as fuck. Like honestly, it was still really loud.
Yeah.
I got used to it. It actually took me a while to kind of come back from that when we got off tour pretty much, because I was like back into doing like small rooms and pubs and the club and all that sort of stuff, and just going, oh wow. And actually those gigs weren't that hard because it's kind of easy it's all just on your ears. But then I think I did a couple of bigger shows and then you're like, oh, that kind of power and that volume and that is just not here, so it's a very different
that power,
there's no
power
body
and
shock.
passion's not there.
That's very good, Stevie.
No, I didn't.
So the whole thing of the sheer velocity and sort of volume that you kind of got, that was a shock because it's more of a body shock. But it wasn't just Rob. It was also Martin and Jim as well, because they've got the beast sounds. Like it sounds incredible. And I just had to sit in the middle of it and just sort of like find my spot.
Yep.
Which I found, and I had a great hookup with Rob. I look forward to the next time we play together because we really did have a great hookup. And I aimed for that. That was pretty much the first point I aimed for when I went into the audition as well, because I was like, man, I wanted to get there and make sure I was in the right spot. And as soon as, I think he must have thought I was a bit weird because I was pretty intense. I was like, I just was right up on him, I wasn't like looking at Pete. I wasn't looking at anyone else. I was like right in on Rob.
Right.
And then once I kind of felt like I got it, he sort of looked at me like, okay, don't hit me, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, am I being too intense? And then, but I wasn't being too intense. Apparently I was being appropriately intense.
Right.
Because that was the winner for me, as far as getting the gig, I suppose. Like coming in with with that intensity, not kind of trying to sort of come in underneath the whole, I had utmost respect for the songs and the musicians. So, but there's a certain way that you need to play the bass.
Yeah.
On pretty much all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That I pretty much was ready for. And I think friends of mine like yourself or whatever that had said, oh yeah, that makes sense, Adam getting onto that gig. I didn't believe that until much way after. I was like, oh, maybe I am the guy for this gig.
Yeah. Because
I'd realised when I started playing with him that I totally am into this same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can play loud. Yeah. Cool.
It goes back to what you said earlier too about, like Midnight Oil's in your DNA.
It is,
right?
very much so.
And there's also something that Peter Garrett wrote too, was, one thing and Marcel, your wife, shared this on Facebook the other day. Yeah. One of the quote was, is that it's primal from you, So they obviously saw that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you're not just this technical. And I've always said this about you too. Like, you know, I haven't seen a bass player play like you play.
Oh, thank you, man. I take
You
that
can play anything, and you know, you're an old soul, man.
Thanks, brother. I literally try to pull it from the deepest place that I can.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where I feel like we should all be pulling it from. Certain gigs doesn't make any sense to bleed for the music. You know, like you might just doing like a party set on a corporate or a wedding or something. But at the same time, like if you can find the point where what you do makes you dig a bit deeper, like, you know, like I really want to make these people dance.
Yeah, yeah.
I really want to make these people sing. I really want to make these people laugh. I really want to make these people cry. Doesn't matter how you get there, whether you're just like funny on the mic or you're completely kick-ass, got the rhythm that people can't not dance to.
Yeah.
Or you sing songs that just tear them to shreds. You know, at least you always try to pull that from the as deep as you get it from as deep as you can. Learn the fucking rep tape. You know, like it's actually pretty simple. You know, if you love music, give it a really good go.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And like I never felt more like I'd been rewarded for that by getting that gig, because it came as a result of my normal interactions with my friends and my favorite musos, you know, who now we're still playing, we're still doing stuff. So there's 3 gigs that happen late Thursdays, Fridays and Saturday nights up at Lazy's from about midnight. And it's 3 different trios that we sort of have rocking, but it's all the same crew. Pliner's in there, Daniel March is in there, Declan's in there, Shane Tunney's in there. It's Toru on the Saturday night. It's Third Eye Laser Cat on the Friday night, and just recently Dark Star, which is me and Marchie and Declan. They're doing a funk, kind of a funk rock,
Yeah, cool.
blues kind of thing. Laser Cat's the sort of bring your edibles gig.
Yeah, exactly.
And Toru is let's dance and sing and have a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
We, you know, but we're all interchanging. You know, we all sort of got different stuff on, so everyone's sort of interchanging. But that's the lay of it at the moment.
Yeah.
So the gig that I had, I remember I was listening, so attempting not to repeat myself from last time.
Yeah.
That I used to have a regular gig there. It was the week after Steve Hunter's regular gig at Lazy Bones.
Right.
On the Tuesday, the 4th. He was the 3rd Tuesday. We were the 4th Tuesday.
Yep.
And then COVID.
That was the Alma Presents.
The Alma Music Presents.
So that's done now, or
well, it's sort of transformed into this late night thing now.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's because it started because I wanted to sort of play with these musicians that I wasn't getting to play with, these musicians that I loved and singer-songwriters that I really loved, and sort of just giving us a stage because Craig from Lazy Bones was generous enough to go, whatever you bring in here, you're good. Just, you know, you come and do your thing here.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And so over this long period of time that we've been involved, where we got to the end of COVID, we were the first gig up at Lazy Bones out of the first COVID lockdowns, the Third Eye Laser Cat. Yeah. Playing to 10 people.
Yeah.
And because that was all we could have in there.
Bet you they never bought the live stream though, did they?
No, they didn't. No. You know what? They didn't support us on the live stream.
So I get fucking full-time name on the door for that.
You do. Actually, right? Stevie, you do. Now you mention it, you actually do. So, yeah, you know, that's all sort of morphed into, after all this time, me with those guys sort of doing these late nights, and we all kind of do all our other stuff and that. And I've been away a lot this year because I've been on tour. But I sort of walked home straight back into it, all of that stuff, and it's just beautiful to kind of be back in with the bros. And
it's interesting you say that because you had that big the Oils finale gig at Horden.
Yeah.
The
3rd of October.
Yeah, and that was it was a Sunday, I think.
It was a Monday.
It was a Monday, it was.
Yes.
Because I was at the second biggest ticket in town.
What was that?
David Jones playing at the Seymour Centre.
Oh, right.
Doing a solo thing, solo drum thing.
Oh, okay.
Me and Glenn Wilson went and watched that.
Yeah, right.
But then I remember seeing, I don't know if it might have been the next night, a video popped up or a picture popped up of you playing at Lazy Bones.
Yeah.
And then there was, like, I'd been seeing photos all day of, like, all your friends congratulating on you on the Oils thing, rightly so. And then there was another photo or video of you, standing downstairs back to your Lazy Bones thing. And it's fucking cool, man.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing that,
Well, it's the part of my sort of local life is important to me. I love where we live and where where I'm sort of involved, the places that I'm connected to, what I'm able to do in the, Marrickville in itself is sort of a suburb that I've decided we're raising our family in, and it's become a really cool place to live.
Yeah.
And good food, good music, and I've got friends here.
Yeah.
A lot of artists.
Yeah.
It's a very high. I think it might even be the highest concentration of like artists in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
My wife at least one of the places that has it anyway. But it's definitely a vibing area, and for us to be sort of so kind of in sync with the development of it from a cultural perspective, like musically, and trying to kind of contribute to the community in the way that that's in doing the thing that I do basically, which is play music. I guess.
My wife said to me tonight, who are you interviewing tonight? I said, Adm Ventoura. And I said, oh, yeah. She said, that's good. So where's he? I said, Marrickville. I said, you going to Marrickville again? You going back to Marrickville? I said, you want to move to Marrickville, don't you?
Apparently a lot of people want to move to Marrickville.
Yeah.
Look, we moved here. It wasn't kind of what it is now. We've been here for about 12 years. So, and it's, it's a great, it's just all these venues popping up, and it's sort of, there's more happening, and it's sort of like, as long as, the gentrification sort of is picking up too. So, hopefully that doesn't sort of wipe it out. But then again, maybe we'll be lucky, There's a lot of big apartment blocks going up, but there's also a few like music venues popping up as well.
That's cool.
And it's pretty cool. I've sort of played at all of them now. So, and I, literally straight after the Oils, I kind of went straight back into, because we were home.
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm home, I'm going to do what I do at home. I might, and I do, it is crazy sometimes to kind of sometimes I go from really big shows to really small shows.
Yeah, yeah.
And, big venue to like a tiny venue or like a beer garden or whatever, like like I said before, like I sort of, there's the feedback that you get is different. Obviously, don't have thousands of screaming people and a massive sound or anything, but it's still the same process for me. Like the same, it's still you play a song, and hopefully people kind of return that energy to you, and you play them another song. Yeah,
it's a credit to your humility, man. That you can, play the last ever Oils gig, 4-hour set or whatever, packed Horden. The world's basically watching, right? And then, next day you're back at Lazy Bones doing your thing. I mean, you could have easily basked in that glory and,
still got to pay the rent, mate.
Exactly, you're right.
The rent don't stop, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Just on now that the Oils thing is done, have there been opportunities besides that the festival you did in the weekend?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that's come about from that?
Yeah. There's people seem to be keen to I always want to mention the the band that I've been working with, you know, like it's definitely become more of a thing that people are wanting to sort of sell their gig on or something a little bit.
No, I didn't mean that. Well,
Yeah.
that's like I never thought of that. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
As in getting
new,
more stuff
different-
with them or hookups with other people.
Yeah,
and
or people that have.
Yeah, look, there's been a whole pile of things that have kind of boiled up out of that. That weekend, that festival was definitely due to probably not only sort of my reputation professionally, but also my connections and who I've worked with, who I'd worked with previously, and what I've done in and around. So, you know, I had good connections there, you know. That was really cool. And, you know, other things have come out just from like, you know, little sessions with crew and just gone, oh, wow, I'm working with this person, I'm working with that person. You know, a few things have popped up, but nothing that's like outside of kind of what I already do, but it's just been quite cool. Things have definitely shifted a little bit. And you know, people they seem to be a lot more happy to see me these days. Sometimes I was absent for a bit, you know, and was doing this huge thing, and then you come back and they're like, oh yeah, cool, you know. So you know, like I sort of appreciate that. You know, it's definitely been some kind of leg up, I suppose, in terms of you know, as somebody that doesn't really send a CV around. It's one of the things you go, it's good for the CV. It's like, you got a CV?
Yeah.
You know, which obviously.
Yeah, listen to these 2 episodes of the Gig Life podcast.
That's all you need. Yeah, Stevie's got it on lock. But yeah, you know, I'm doing a couple of things for Sydney Festival, but they were kind of things that were happening, but there seems to be a good will towards it since having done that, you know, the gig, you know. I'm very much back working with my main things I was working with before. Because those were things that I'm very close to, like Karen Lee Andrews and Oyobi. Third Eye Laser Cat is now in the mix there, very much so. It's sort of been writing music for a bunch of different things. Oyobi got a track signed to a part of Defected Records, which is one of the biggest house labels in the world, and we had a track out, a collaboration with Karen. Sort of going to work on some more stuff in that vein as well with Oyobi, cool. and you know, we've got a whole bunch of other collaborations sort of lining up. You know, people that we met along the way, and people that I've recently met as well, and that we're all sort of starting to kind of do that. And then the Laser Cat's been a really cool sort of thing because it's really specific and not many people can kind of do it. You know, literally just go, let's do a gig where we just make it up. You know? We tend to do all right. You know, we sing every now and again, but you know, we kind of see the crowds a bit like, whoa, this is getting pretty full on.
Imagine Third Eye Laser Cat and God Tet.
Be a good gig.
One stage, imagine that.
It'd be a good gig, man. Yeah, totally, man. Absolutely.
Bring your edibles.
Well, yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's all those things we've sort of been working, you know, that I've been working towards previous to are still in place. Things got put on hold, obviously, because I was working. But that's what happens, you know, like you kind of, you know, if you've got kind of both focuses going on, you've got like, you've got to make that money and then I've got to make that art too.
Yeah, gotcha.
And both have to give at different times. Mostly the art gives to the money, especially after the whole COVID couple of years, you know. So you know, that's a whole other thing. But I'm super positive right now. I love seeing there's spots popping up in Sydney now. Post-COVID, post-lockout laws, which I was obviously spewing about last time we were talked about it.
Well, that's what I was listening to that part in the car.
Yeah.
'Cause I think you started that with "Don't get me started."
I know. I was very angry about it, and I mean, look, COVID definitely took the shine off that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we, in recovery, I feel like the city will bounce back. Is bouncing back.
Yep.
Beautifully, and we've got a really fucking shitty decade to better ourselves, and I think that was kind of where we left it. Actually, last time was talking about how we are kind of responsible for kind of creating the scene that we want to play in.
Yep.
We could try to hook up with the people that you dig, or at least work alongside them, or and be conscious of that. You are what you eat. Listen to good music, eat good food, and you'll play good music and poo good. I don't know. Profound. No, we can create a better place, a better scene, and it's happening. It's like everyone's really pumped to be back. That's what I noticed when we started playing back again after the music in the world stopping. Every festival and gig all over the place, was that when we came, like I swore when I came back, I was like, my God, like everyone's sort of retraining and other things, and it's kind of wear out, and
Hang on, the word was pivot.
Pivoting, yes.
Everyone pivoted.
Well, I didn't pivot very well. I couldn't. I wasn't able to pivot. I did some other things, but I just wanted to know that when I come back, I was going to be ready. So I played a lot of music, played a lot of guitar, practiced a lot, and sort of did stuff around my house, and just to get to that, back to the gigging part. And as soon as we could get together again, we were back in the studio again. And, and then as soon as we were starting to gig properly again, you just noticed everyone had such a good vibe. Crowd, bands, everyone. Like we were just all, I'm still there. Literally, I'm stoked every time I do a gig because I'm just like, oh wow, like we had this taken away from us, not once but twice, and both times we weren't sure exactly what where it was going to end up, and to be back where, I've been doing such these amazing things, and then I come home and I'm back into my regular kind of thing. I'm very grateful and appreciative, man. That this is where we are now, compared to where we were before. Hell of a lot's happened since the last time I spoke to you, Stevie.
Oh, my man.
Yeah.
Adm Ventoura. Look forward to doing this again in 4 more years.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who knows? I wonder what we'll be up to.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. Let's go.
Brother,
All
thanks,
right.
man. Take it
Thank
easy.
you, brother.
See you, bro.
Right.